All right. Well, we can get started, and this is basically your time. Um, I wanted to bring I put made copies of the newsletter article from several weeks ago that talk about some of the ethical realities that I, as a pastor, and you as a congregation share during this time of a pastor's leaving. If you have any questions or comments about that document, this is a great time to explore that. Also, just any questions you have, or anything that you would like to share. Um, it is your floor, your space and time.
I appreciate the rationale of this, and it feels a little insulting. It's a little insulting because I think feels to me, and this might be arrogant to say, but it feels to me like this is good for some churches that aren't as mature as ours.
Hmm.
Like I feel like we get it here at Redeemer.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I feels like we at Redeemer we get it. So to go to our pastor, we know to go to the new pastor, but we can still have a relationship with
Mhm.
you because I think we are a mature enough church community to separate too. We go to the
Mhm.
new pastor for all of the important church related issues, but we can still meet with you. So
Yeah.
I'm not, you know, throwing a fit about it, but I do feel a little insulted,
Mhm.
not from you, just
Mhm.
from the policy in general. But again, I want to make it perfectly clear. I understand the point of it, but I just feel like this congregation is maybe a little bit different than others. So
So what do you think they get? What do you think when you said Redeemer gets it? Could one of you put your can one of you put yourselves on mute? Because we're hearing some background voices and words of those are Kathy or Bill. If you could put yourselves on mute and unless you want to talk, because we're getting some background sounds. Thank you. Yeah. So you said it, but you think that yeah, when you said Redeemer gets it.
I just it's I feel like it's such an intelligent church. When I say intelligent, I mean both, book smart, but also emotional intelligence.
Hmm.
It feels like our community and all of the things we've done and how we've grown, I think can compartmentalize the reality of the situation, which is still having a relationship with you, but going to the new pastor for all of those different types of things. I think they could separate the pastoral professional side with the friendship that we've developed with.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a important point. And um, you know, most almost all denominations have a policy like this. And it's interesting to know sort of where they came from, how they came to develop this. My sense, for at least a part of it, is that there are a lot of clergy, especially when those clergy retire, who have become so used to their identity as a pastor and who have not developed relationships outside the congregation that they serve, that when they are faced with retirement, not only are they confronted with who am I now if I am no longer serving as a pastor, but who do I spend time with? Because the significant relationships in my life have centered around the church, especially if it's a longer term pastorate. And that is why I continue to be so grateful to Al Debelak for making space for me to develop pastoral relationships with you all. But I think because so many, again, especially retiring clergy, don't have struggle so much with developing an identity outside of their role that they try to continue to be the pastor even after they are no longer serving a pastor and a new pastor has come. So they still spend time around the church and still spend time like in small groups at the church that they have been part of. And so to the extent that that has been a fairly common reality, then denominations have had to sort of make these blanket policies where, like you said, maybe there are some congregations that have much better boundaries than that and much better understandings. And that there are retiring clergy who are happy to say, no, I know that I'm no longer the pastor here. So I am not going to be in any, I will not have a role as a pastor. Um, but
You understand those boundaries too. That's what
yeah.
I'm saying. I think the situation, the congregation and the pastor both understand the boundaries, understand the
Yeah.
situation, and have the common respect that
Mhm.
you know, I don't think this quite applies to us, but
Yeah.
I will obviously
Since there's not an asterisk in this policy that say mature churches are exempt.
I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, Larry and then Kay.
Yeah, I just want to say, when I read this the first time and I looked at it again now, I very much appreciated the way that you put this and the way that you showed it with the congregation. Because I've been on various sides to various problems with that whole thing. And I think, for this congregation, and for especially the way you put it, was very good.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, you as a pastor, yeah. Okay.
I appreciate this. I know when Pastor Double-Luck left, he followed this very much so. But the one place where he kind of broke with it, I would say broke with it, was if a member of the congregation passed away and it was somebody that he had been pastor, well, obviously had been pastor for a long time. He came back for the funerals.
Mhm.
Is that something that you are considering doing, or that we make sure you know that the person's passed away? And how, that's the only situation where I would see having you come back for the funeral.
Mhm. And just as a person in the congregation
Right.
celebrating that life,
Right.
that is certainly a possibility. That is something that I would certainly contact if it's during the interim time or if it's after the new settled pastor comes, I would ask to see if it might be okay if I were to come back.
Okay.
The challenge in that always is, I mean, there's some of you who might have worked more closely with than others for a variety of reasons. The challenge always comes is if I come to your service, but I didn't come to your service, then
What?
the favoritism questions the sense of, well, why? Why? Yeah, my chopped liver kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I guess that's
But in that case, they'll be dead, so
they'll be dead, but that wasn't a great, I didn't put that terribly well. I think you get that because you're as astute as Scott says, you understand, but family. Yeah, family. Yeah, and so that's the only thing. It's that whole question of if you do for one, you are open to doing for all in some ways. But I certainly what I want to make but what I certainly wanted to make clear on this was that not in any that I will not accept an invitation to officiate. Because that is the pastor's job, and I am no longer that. What a number of denominations try to do is say it's okay for a former pastor to officiate, say, at a baptism or wedding or funeral, if the current pastor says it's okay. But that is the worst setup for the new pastor, because what are they supposed to do? A family member says, hey, we want Pastor Dave to do this. So I ask you as the new pastor, hey, can I do this? If you say yes, then you are losing an amazing opportunity to build a relationship with the family around a time of deep grief. I mean, that is memorial services, planning for those services, that is a really rich time, especially for a fairly new pastor, to get to know people and for people to see this pastor and this pastor leading a memorial service. So if they say, yes, Dave, sure, you can do this funeral service, then they are losing that opportunity. If they say no, they are seen by the family as petty or as jealous. And so I've always felt that that policy that says, yes, a former pastor can come in and do this pastoral duty as long as the current pastor approves, is the worst setup for the new pastor.
See,
Um,
you come and worship at.
Yeah. to come to yeah, I mean, that's a possibility. I won't promise that, but that,
I don't
yeah.
want to know if that's.
That's a thought. It's interesting. It's not something that I had thought of. It's because often you leave. I mean, it's interesting to be leaving a church and staying in the city. I mean, Mike and I are not leaving Columbus. So I mean, when I left the last church in Seattle, of course, it was to come here. So that wasn't an issue of am I going to show up as a member of the congregation for a memorial service for somebody I'd worked closely with at that church.
From your standpoint, from where I'm sitting and looking at you, I can't see you losing not knowing your identity. I think you have built an identity
I can't hear.
on your own with your.
Okay, can you talk a bit louder? We have some people can't hear.
I think you build up your own identity with your spiritual classes, and you're married to Mike, and you have your own life that I don't think we're gonna worry about, or I'm not worried that you're gonna be lost.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, for some reason, I'm not sure why, I have never, I can't say never. For most of my professional life, I have not had being a pastor as my primary source of identity. And I've thought about that. I was in this conversation with somebody fairly recently and was trying to think of why in the world, because a lot of pastors do. I mean, being a pastor is central to who they are. Oh, I think, yeah, I remember just the way I was sharing it for lunch with people this last week. And I think one reason might be is that the first church I served after seminary, I was closeted.
Mhm.
And I realized I had to leave that church because I did not feel I had any integrity being closeted, telling people, hey, come to church just as you are, but I'm not going to do that because I'll lose my ordination if I do that. So early on, my first church, after less than 2 years as a pastor, I had to set aside that role. And what I thought was going to be for the rest of my career, because I did not think the church was going to move. I mean, when has the church moved quickly on anything before? But in terms of honoring gay and lesbian, LGBT people as clergy, who would have guessed that in 30 years, every mainline denomination would do that? So I thought I was giving up being a pastor for the rest of my career. So when I ended up being able to get back into a church open,
Mhm.
I think I was cautious about not taking on that role too close, not clinging to that role too closely, because I'd had to let go of it in earlier in my career. So I think I've not ever said pastoring is my sole reason for being, or the whole identity that I have.
And you also had a position before you were asked. You did social work and you worked at the State House and that. And from my view, that gave you other identities
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
other traits that you can call back.
Yeah, yeah.
Or that you use. I mean, they helped you as a pastor, but they also helped you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I look at this and I'm not worried about you going on.
Yeah, well, you don't need to be. Yeah, no, you don't need to worry about it. But I appreciate that, because a lot of times clergy hold that they worry about the pastor.
Yeah, I'm more worried about, well, just so we don't see it in like headline news.
You don't see me on headline news. Wow. Okay,
Let's go, Rich, tonight on Dave Show.
we'll see.
Yeah.
As I've been telling people, I'm waiting to see what discovers me in this retirement. And so who knows?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
You can't see him in jail because he said we can't see him for.
Wow. You all have a very interesting image for where I might end up. So yeah, Judy and then Donna.
Two questions. How does this affect your spirituality class at Kelly, where you will be in?
Yeah, but it's interesting because yeah,
And a second
okay.
one, will you be looking at the website?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, so in terms, I mean, the fact that Kelly Frank from this church happens to be one of the 13 people in this 2.5 year spiritual direction training class, which is still just beyond me that the two of us from this congregation would end up out of 13 people. That is a different role for me. Yeah, I will of course still continue that class. Kelly will be in that class. I do not expect to be asking her about things at the church. And Kelly has very good boundaries as well. I don't even know if she has shared with people in the class that I'm her pastor, for example. One of our classmates came with them today, who's a retired Lutheran pastor, Miriam Schrank. But she was here with them today because she's in that class as well. But yeah, so that should not affect us doing that together. I imagine I will check in with the website absolutely and occasionally and just kind of see how things are going. I don't expect to do it every week. But yeah, because you can't to make a total shift is not, I don't know if that's terribly healthy. So at least a way to sort of keep a connection while still maintaining that boundary, I think is a healthy way to try to move into this season. Yeah, Donna.
Well, I'm thinking of the congregation and the loss that we'll experience and the grief that comes along with the loss, like a beloved pastor retiring, and how the congregation as a group may deal with their grief. And individually, there's a lot, I feel already a loss, and I'm thinking about that, what's going to come in January and how I deal with the loss and becoming engaged with somebody entirely new and different who right now I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I guess, having faith that it'll all work out. And I don't really like using that word
Mm-hmm.
too readily.
Yeah. I think Donna, I think it'll be really helpful to talk with each other about that. I also know that I believe that Brad Benow and Karen Ryder are sort of looking at adult education opportunities. And I think they're pretty much set for January right now. But you might check about maybe you do an exploration on, you have a chance to sort of look at grief issues. I mean, Brad has taught grief as a pastoral theology professor. So there might be an opportunity to sort of bring that up because that's a reality. It's an absolute reality, and there's no reason to feel like you just sort of have to deal with it by yourself. But I know that, yeah, I think Karen and Brad are sort of looking at filling that role until the interim comes, who will then be sort of primary responsibility for this hour, for shaping this hour. But that's something that I have seen done in other churches when a significant loss has come about.
Well, and aren't the interims trained to deal with that?
The interims, yes.
I think of Leslie Foss. She was
Yeah.
awesome.
Really good.
Interims are used to coming in during a time of transition.
Yes.
So the preaching that will come and other opportunities, that's a very good point, that they might early on do a class on something like that. But that's certainly something you can ask for if you would like something like that, if that would be helpful. But yeah, exactly. It's a very good point, Judy. Interims are used to coming in around times of transition and transitions that happen for a variety of reasons.
I have another really quick question. Do you plan to stay in Columbus?
Yeah, Mike and I definitely plan on saying Columbus. We just doubled the size of our front porch, so I'm not going to.
Is it done?
It is done. The front porch is done. You can do a drive-by. Nancy's, yes, Nancy lives at the end of my street.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
gorgeous.
Yeah,
Now, I'm only mad that I can't go and sit there. Can you be gone?
yeah, we can let, yeah,
Yeah.
you can just go and hang out on that front porch. What's really cool, the front porch used to only be 7 feet deep. So it ended in the front. So it was even with the front of the house. There was a 7 foot deep porch and maybe a 9 foot ceiling. And code only allowed us to move 8 feet closer to the street. So I was thinking, so how much bigger is this going to be? Well, the ceiling is now 25 feet high.
Oh, yeah.
So Mike calls it the sanctuary. He said, "Oh, Dave, you're going to spend all that time in the sanctuary." I mean, it's beautiful. It is just, it really is so much bigger than yeah, than I ever imagined. Because I love being on the front porch. I love being out there. Yeah, Sue.
Yeah, so I appreciate and I get this, but you're also part of this church family and you're a friend. And that feels very unnatural
Mhm.
to not be able to continue that. To me, that's tough. I read this and I thought, okay, my head can give this, but my
Yeah,
heart's like,
yeah.
oof,
No,
yeah.
it's
I-
absolutely real. And I don't know if this is something that it would be helpful occasionally to be reminded for a pastor to remind congregations of during the time they're together, just so it doesn't feel like it's coming as a surprise. I don't know what was done when Al left, for example, if there was a conversation about some of these things. That was so long ago
Yeah.
now. But I think it is, and it's I don't know of another professional relationship that has exactly um this kind of boundary in it. And maybe, yeah, because we've had so many different kinds of relationships in so many different contexts that it is, yeah, you just sort of get used to it. And pastors love to encourage congregation members to be vulnerable and, hey, get to know us, and we want to get to know you and all this. And then you get to this place where there's a leaving, and then suddenly it's as if, it's like reminds me of the Etch a Sketch
Oh,
thing,
yeah.
right? It's kind of there, and then you shake it, and then
Mm.
it's not. And that's why, I mean, I appreciate, and I feel like 2 years is going to be fast, even though it feels like a long way. But if you think of the interim here about that time, and then the first year of the new installed pastor, that contact is possible after they've been there a year. When I think of 2 years ago, what, 2023, that feels not very long ago to me at all.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, yeah. So, but you're right. And I don't know of another, because even, yeah, I mean, there are professional relationships, and even if you see a therapist, 5 months later, you can call the therapist again and see them.
Oh,
You don't have a boundary, but I'm trying to think of other relationships where the relationship stops. It's been a professional relationship, but it's had so many personal aspects of it too,
Right.
that I agree.
get it.
And I wish, yeah,
I would say,
yes.
be honest, we can look at post Al Devilac,
Mhm.
and he does come. We do greet him. We're glad to see
Yeah.
him.
Yeah,
It happens,
Yeah,
but that's been 10 years.
yeah,
but he's been here recently.
but he wasn't here. The first year I was here, he was gone.
Say, you can see how it develops and where it moves.
Yeah.
Isn't an end. It's just a period.
Yeah, it is a period. Yeah, it's a,
Do you know how to grow kale?
that's right. I have to be,
Nice.
yeah, I'd have to bring something else to the produce giveaway. Okay, yeah.
Responsibility.
Mustard.
Bring, just help gather.
yeah,
Very
but yeah,
all
but yeah,
fine.
but it's good to be able to see a former pastor who has, you found ways, who has found way, you find ways together to do this in a comfortable kind of way. But yeah, it is not, yeah, it's not an easy thing for anyone. Yes.
Well, we're all gonna miss you, you know, we'll miss you. But what I'm gonna miss most is your sermons right now, because I've been thinking about it. So I have a nosy question. Because I know how you do sermons and, you know, you do them the way you do them, but have you ever considered a sermon book? You know, have you ever considered being Martin Luther? Have you ever considered putting your sermons in readable form?
I haven't. Um,
They're pretty good.
they're never in a manuscript form, right? So they'd have to be transcribed. I don't know. Thank you. It's a thought. What? She could re-listen to them. Yeah, you can listen. They're on the website for everybody. Yeah, I haven't. I've not ever had the sense that that would be a terribly interesting thing for people to read. Um, and part of that's because they seem to be they're time specific, right? Their sermons are written,
That's why they're good.
but like 20 years later, 10 years later, things change. I don't know.
All right.
I'll have to share with you that there was a retired juvenile court judge at the congregation I served in Seattle. And you knew that he had given a lot of talks to like Rotary and Kiwanis, and he'd done the circuit. So he had these really bad jokes that he had told, and people love minister jokes. And he would tell the same minister jokes coming through the line. And one of him was where the parishioner says to the pastor, "Have you ever thought about publishing your sermons?" And the pastor said, "Well, I was thinking about having a posthumous collection put together at some point." And the parishioner said, "Well, the sooner the better." So one of his favorite.
My other nosy question was, have you thought about a paid job totally outside of your pastor world?
I don't know. I mean, the after another year of the spiritual direction training, I mean, that has some real crossovers to pastoring, but it's not like you have the congregation. So I am looking forward to being a spiritual director starting in 2027, and sort of trying to build a clientele of people who are interested in that kind of a relationship. So that's an interesting thing. I've not thought about other kinds of, like,
I have a client for you.
Kroger or something, or I can go back to my carryout days.
Yeah.
Paper route.
Paper route. I know, paper route. All these jobs I used to have. But I'm interested. I know I'll end up with some volunteer gig at some point. But like I said, I'm not looking for anything on the near term at all. I just kind of want to see what this open time is like and where it goes.
I have a friend who's a lawyer and he's retiring. And his soul is heavy.
Because he's gonna miss. Does he feel like he'll just really miss that work?
Because he's not exactly.
Oh.
Because he's a lawyer. His soul is heavy.
Oh. So doing the work.
Boom, charging a lot of money. He's rich.
Wow. Yeah.
Those were his very words.
My soul is heavy.
His soul is heavy. Yep, I'm to figure that.
And again, just be clear, how do you understand why is his soul heavy? You said because he's a lawyer.
Yeah. I don't want to say any more than that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that was a brief, pithy conversation. He was one of my move-in clients where he was moving in furniture. I waited at his house for it, and he has a lovely dog named Fergus.
Fergus.
So he's a nice guy.
Cute.
He's a nice guy with a heavy soul.
Wow. Yeah, my soul does not feel heavy.
No, he's does. Yours is fine.
That's a shame. I feel that's really hard if your soul is heavy from the work that you do.
Yeah. I believe it.
That is not fun. Hmm.
My answer would be, don't be a defense attorney then,
Exactly.
or a good one.
No, it's not it's a tough life.
Yeah,
Certainly
Kathleen.
interested in volunteer work. I could teach you how to hang clothes on hangers
Hey,
and separate shoes.
Bishop Griffin,
Yeah.
right? You do that at Bishop Griffin. Yes. It's beautiful.
And actually, the food pantry is fun.
Yeah.
That's a fun job.
It can be hard work.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
they'll stop there.
I'm sure. Yeah, there are a lot of really good places to be going. What was that, Kay?
You chase down carts at the food pantry. To the crowd rushes.
Carol, a
Chaser.
Christy and I were having a conversation.
little louder if you could, please, for people up here.
Christy and I were having a conversation and she asked me, what did you think you would do when you were growing up? So,
Wow.
and we had that conversation and I've asked my sister and, you know, just different people, what did you think you would do when you were a kid?
Ah,
And so I'm asking you, what did you think you would do or be when you were a kid growing up? So sometimes those are those unexplored dreams that.
yeah. One of them was being a teacher, and then I wanted to be in politics. And that's what I majored in political science in college because that's what I was interested in. But then I had the chance, my junior year in college, I had the chance to spend a semester in Washington, D.C. American University has a national program called the Washington Semester where you learn about government, you do an internship in some sort of thing related to government or politics, you take classes, you meet with members of Congress, and you meet with Supreme Court justices, you meet with all these different people. And sitting on the floor of former Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm's office, and her talking about how incredibly frustrating it is to, she was in the House of Representatives, so she goes, I'm one of 435 people who are sitting in this building convinced that we have brilliant ideas about how to make this country better. If our party is not in control of Congress, or if our party is not what the person in the White House is, that same party, you can forget anything like being able to get substantial legislation through. If you are new, if you've only been here 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 terms, then the people who've been here longer are going to say, take a number. We have been waiting for so, and then she said, and this was in 1980, she said, it's all about raising money. And now, of course, it's just exponential. So I learned really quickly through that program that I did not have the ego or the drive or the confidence, the self-confidence to be in elective politics.
Yeah.
And so I made a total swing to then becoming a psychotherapist because I could work one-on-one. I would still feel like maybe making a difference. And then it was only in Columbus when I was working in the state legislature, even though I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do. I worked there for 3 years as a legislative aide, super involved at Broad Street Presbyterian, and there realizing that a pastor gets to do all of the things I like doing because there's the teaching, there's the speaking, there's the research, there's the writing, there's the looking at public policy from an ethical viewpoint. So still being able to be involved in the political world, but not having to run for office or get people to vote for you. So I really came to see that, yeah, being a parish pastor really, it's like a master's degree in liberal arts. I mean, the variety of things that you take in seminary. But yeah, so but teaching and politics were the two early wish things that I had grown up, the two dreams. And so this is an interesting melding. But I had never, if you would have told me even as late as graduating from college that I was going to end up in pastoring, I would have said, "What are you smoking?" You know, I mean, it would never have crossed my mind ever. So it was just the 3 years in Columbus between college and then seminary at Broad Street that really, yeah, that sort of led me to feel like, wow, this is something that maybe brings it all together.
In your list of things that pastors do, you left out unplugging the toilets and making the coffee, both of which are extremely important at the time.
And
It's everything.
I will always
Yeah.
remember a beloved pastor colleague in Seattle who never learned how to operate the big coffee maker because she knew she was always going to be asked to do that at every meeting. She said, "I'm sorry, I don't know how to work." And that worked for her for 25 years.
What advice do you have for our call committee? Any
You have a great call committee. How many people are in this room are on it? 1, 2, 3. Be you. I mean, the people whose names were brought forward at the recommendation for the call committee are people who exec and council really felt represented the church in a beautiful kind of way. And each of you, each of them brings perspectives that are so important. So
But you contributed so much to the growth of this congregation.
Mhm.
You feel, I don't want to put this on you, because it's on us, but do you feel like a responsibility to make sure that it continues to grow, it continues to?
I don't. But you know, I don't feel I feel good about what all of us have been able to do these last 8.5 years together. And I think part of my letting go and moving on is continuing to love you and pray for you, and know that you all are just going to go where you are led to go.
It's gotta be a
And
little hard.
where you need to. It's weird. It is very, I mean, to be thinking that a week from now, I won't have keys to this place. I won't have the church credit card. I will not have any responsibilities here.
Or the
And
computer.
the computer, yes. I mean, it's just bizarre. It's just, I won't be real for a number of weeks. I'm sure it will not be real.
Yeah.
But I think this is an awesome community.
Uh,
And I think that you all, as you are open to each other and open to God's spirit and open to your own dreams for this place, and your own love for this place, you will go where you need to go, um, and be led, I think, to make a really continue to make good decisions. So yeah, no, I have no concerns about this community in the slightest. Yeah,
Well put. I think it was the spirit of church council to select a call committee that would be a cross section of congregation.
yeah.
My understanding is that they're essentially
They're essentially
autonomous.
autonomous. Mhm.
To the point they make the recommendation to church council. What was on church councils? Served in the congregation.
Yeah.
Make that note.
Yeah, but it's a, no, I think it's a,
There's fine group of people.
it's a superb call committee, just a superb call committee. Yeah.
Can I just add, don't judge the call committee on how long it takes, because it's just, I mean, having served on many call committees, not just here. It's just a lot of work, and it's a lot of patience, and it's a lot of listening, and it's a lot of time, but it's also a lot of don't settle. Like, know what you're looking for and don't settle for what it isn't. So it may take no time, it may take a longer time, but pray for them. It's worth it.
Does the Senate send the interim? Who-
Yes. Yes, the Senate sends the interim.
We can talk about that stuff after it's gone. Let's get it out.
Okay.
Who was the biggest pain, Dave? Come on.
Wow. Yeah, no.
Okay, tell us who it isn't.
Favorite day, come to.
Oh. Yowza. Yes, Brad.
Well, stands for Scott, it's people who ask questions. I'm sorry I came late, I was decorating out there, so if you've already responded to something like this, but sort of along that line. In your whole ministry, maybe not even just here, but what I wonder, what is the biggest difficulty that you face? And what got you through it, if anything did get you through it, makes it still part of your life?
I think it was the end of Peter's and my relationship and navigating that. Because we met in seminary. Ended up leaving parish ministry. He was in the United Church of Christ, so he could serve. He wasn't open in the church that he was serving in, but he was allowed to be gay and in a relationship and be ordained, which at that time in the late 80s, only the United Church of Christ and the Unitarians allowed that. Every other denomination, the Episcopal Church depended on the bishop, but in terms of a national policy. So we moved to Chicago, gave up ministry, and then ended up getting called as a couple to a church in Seattle in '94. So then we're able to serve openly. We served in that church together for 11 years, and then I was feeling ready to be doing something else. And that's when I moved to a part-time parish ministry job and recovery cafe. And that was in 2006. 2013 is when Peter ended the relationship. We went to Seattle as a couple. Everything about Seattle was as a couple. We served at church as a couple. We served different churches as a couple, but the end of that, though, I think both professionally and personally, I didn't know who I was. Talk about identity. I mean, the identity question, I was a member of a partnership. And we worked so hard to become pastors again. And went through so many rejections in our effort to get a call committee to pay attention to us. That when that relationship finally ended after 27 years, I didn't know who I was. And this is where the pastoral boundary issue comes back into play, because I was serving a church part-time at that point. We were separated for 2 years until Peter decided to end the relationship. We were getting counseling and all that. During that 2-year period when Peter and I were separated, I did not tell anybody in the church I was serving that Peter and I were separated. The music minister had many friends who were pastors. She did not consider me her pastor. I did not consider her my parishioner. We were colleagues. So I told her. So at least I had somebody at the church who knew that we were separated, and she could check in with me. But my predecessor at that church had been a very new pastor. And she was pretty miserable in living where she was living. And she told everybody in the church how miserable she was.
Mm.
And so the church was needing to take care of her as to try to help tend to her needs. And so then they could not come to her with their brokenness because they knew that she was already really burdened. And so that was why I knew that I didn't want anybody in the church to be worried about me. I knew that I needed to get my supports outside the congregation. And having Linda, the music minister, as a person there who knew made a world of difference. But it was that navigating the end of an us. And anybody who's been through a divorce, a death, there was an us. And then when the us is gone, who am I when it's just me? And I didn't find a lot of support from like the equivalent of the bishop. He was very, very close to Peter, because Peter's on the board of directors of the conference. And so and I find a lot of my colleagues were not terribly supportive. They didn't know quite what to do with my grief. And so I started looking fairly quickly after 2013. I started looking for a new church job to leave Seattle. And I realized after about a year that I was looking to escape. I wanted to get out of Seattle because Seattle was all about Peter and me. Every place I looked in Seattle was the thing that connected the two of us. And I realized that it was totally unfair to a congregation if I am looking to escape my own pain and grief instead of moving toward something, then that was totally unfair to any congregation that would not be able to see through that and might call me. And so I put my search on hold while I continued to get therapy and continued to talk with people and got to a place where I could actually feel like I was ready to move toward something and not just need an escape, need an out. So that was about a 4-year process of getting to the place where I could feel that if I did not end up being in a relationship again, that I could be happy. Because I did not believe that. I did not believe that I could be happy on my own, not in a committed relationship.
Are you surprised you were married?
I'm totally shocked that meeting Mike and doing online dating during a pandemic is sort of like, yeah, you're really pressing. Yeah, I was totally, but the nice thing was I didn't need that relationship, which meant that I could be open to it and not be like a parasite, like sucking everything he had to offer because I'm so empty inside. I mean, that was an incredibly important process to go through that grieving and that claiming of myself as enough. And not needing there to be an us or a variety of us's. I didn't need a committed relationship, but that was the hardest. And there was the disappointment in pastors, friends, and people in the bishop's role in the United Church of Christ is called the conference minister. They love to say they're a pastor to pastors, but that is not. I have not found that to be the case very often. It's also really hard when they're the person who a call committee, if I've talked with the conference minister about a lot of my personal issues, my struggles and stuff, and then that is the person who a call committee will contact if I'm applying to be a pastor there, that puts them in a really awkward role because they know things about me that they technically shouldn't tell because they were told in confidence, but
They know it.
what do you do? Yeah. So I was very grateful that I had cultivated good friendships so that I could rely on those folks and didn't need to um, rely on the church. And when I told them, I wrote a letter to them very soon after Peter ended our relationship, because I wanted them to know. And some of them were absolutely furious. They said, "You didn't let us support you." And all I could say was, "You've supported me in ways you never knew, simply by being you. You didn't need to know about this. You didn't need to say to me, 'How are you, Dave? I'm so sorry.' You could just be you and be the loving community you are. And you were incredibly healing for me." But I told them, and I didn't connect it to their previous pastor, but I just said, "I need you to know that I need to be able to be your pastor. And that means you don't worry about me. If you're in a position of really having to worry about my emotional health, then I can't be your pastor." And so that's why I didn't tell you. And I'm sorry if you feel like I deprived you of a chance to be supportive. I needed to be your pastor. So Brad, yeah, that was, so that wasn't a church related thing as much specifically, but it's an emotional, it's just a life thing that had certainly church implications.
I want to say, I think one of the best gifts you've given us, you just demonstrated, you have found that incredibly difficult fine line of self-disclosure without overdoing. I've never heard you say anything in a sermon or hear whatever that I found cringeworthy. Oh my God, why is it? You know that.
Mhm.
Always helpful. And yet very honest and open. That is a gift when you to find that place where you can balance those things. But thank you for that.
And thank you for being a community that lets me do that too. I mean, you really have, I can only do that because I feel like you're not going to be cringing, or feel like it's your job to take care of me, or you're going to go, too much information. I've really felt a freedom to do that. And there are communities that a pastor would not feel that freedom. Yeah, Carol. We'll be closing up in a minute or two. Yeah.
Last week, I had the opportunity to visit with a couple of your friends, a Thursday night group, and I found myself thinking, wow, I wish I would have been on the phone. Listen. Just a variety of personalities and openness and and I thought, well, to have this support group, to have these friends outside of church, what a blessing, because like you said, you could be you.
Yeah.
If you were responsible, or you were just you, and you could share whatever thoughts were on your mind or ask questions. And yes, I enjoyed having the opportunity to meet some of them.
Yeah. Everybody. So I've been part of a Thursday night men's group every Thursday night since I moved to Columbus, that friends I knew from the early 80s here helped start. And that has been my main friendship group. So all of them came with spouses last week to the service, which was very fun. They love connecting with you all, and having those conversations. But that's been a huge source of just joy and growth and support. Yeah, we've done that for each other. I mean, what guys get together every week and aren't talking about sports, right? But really are talking about very significant stuff. It's been such,
No sports at all.
well, no, OSU football, really, yeah. No, yes. And the Guardians are very popular too. I know, what do you do? Yeah. But that has been a huge source of just, yeah, it's so rich.
I think that delay in the food was just perfect to give
time for some of those conversations. Yeah. Last question, I mean, yeah.
I appreciate the opportunity we've had to share all of our memories and the things that have happened up until now as a part of your being a part of our lives. So I want to look at from now on. What are your hopes as you look down
Wow.
all at all that's coming your way, which I know is uncertain, but what are your hopes?
That's like, wow. I want to continue to um, I just hope there's a lot more to be curious about, and a lot more to wonder at. Um, I certainly hope I stay healthy, but we can't control that, right? Um, and but I guess it's yeah, that sense of not of I mean, wonder and freedom are the two kind of North Star values that I live with. And so I think to let those continue to guide me and see what happens, to really be open to letting myself be surprised by what draws my energy and attention and where that goes. Travel is definitely going to be a huge thing because I love to do that. And I shared with some of you, Mike and I and two friends are planning are going on a trip to Scotland in August. And I was thinking about, well, shoot, maybe I could stay longer afterwards because I can't, right? There's nothing I need to go back to where these poor slobs all have to work, right? And then I went on the Rick Steves website because Mike and I did a Rick Steves tour in Portugal last year and loved it. Um, and there is a 13-day Best of Scotland tour that ends in Edinburgh 3 days before Mike and they were all going to be meeting.
Oh, great.
So I signed up for this 13-day beforehand, and I will learn enough just to be utterly obnoxious showing them around. And said, well, I know that this is this, but it's stuff like that, just to have the freedom to be able to just sort of do that. Why not? Yeah.
Already there.
Yeah, and the fact that they're going to be coming there anyway. So I think I think it is just the openness and the patience to not need something to fill all that open time, but to just let that be. And yeah, I've never really struggled with unstructured time. So this hopefully should just be a nice season. Um, and just to stay, yeah. So yeah, the curiosity and wonder piece and just the gratitude financially to be able to retire at the time I wanted to and to be able to travel and that sort of thing. To have a job that has an employer sponsored pension is an incredible benefit. Oh my gosh. Just that by itself, you all get your all support in that of your pledges allowing pastors to get really good benefits and not have to, to have that pension piece is, yeah. So just delight. Yeah. Thank you. It's a great question. So thank you all very, very, very much. Thanks for the conversation. You continue to be who and how you are, and to astonish a sometimes mean world with your acts of kindness. Continue to allow humor to lighten the burden of your tender heart. Continue to remind people that each is as good as the other, that no one is beneath or above you. Continue to take the hand of the despised and walk proudly with them. Continue to let gratitude be the pillow on which you kneel to say your nightly prayer. And let trust be the bridge you build to overcome evil and welcome good. Continue to dare to love deeply and risk everything for the good thing. And may the God who is Abba, Son, and Holy Spirit, Mother of us all, be with us and stay with us today and in all the days to come. Amen.